And thanks everyone, for joining today. So I'm going to talk a bit about the curiosities that we unearthed through this report, looking particularly at crowdsourcing and merchandising, and kind of frame it. And this neatly dovetails with Alexander's presentation around this turn that we've seen in activism of influencer plus audience. So offline activism being used for maximum online impact. So just a word in terms of context, we can see that financial activities quite neatly link to developments within the UK right-wing extremist scene over the past 10 or 15 years. So what we've seen after the implosion of the British National Party in 2010 is broadly a splintering, fragmentation and radicalization of the movement more broadly. We saw initially the emergence of anti-Islam street protest movements in the early 2010s, and then a movement to more identitarian, some people call white separatist movements, and then on to more fully fledged versions of white supremacy. So examples of this include National Action, the more violent end, and then at the non-violent end, the patriotic alternative movement. But largely what we've seen here is the gearing up of activism offline in order to reach the maximum amount of followers online. I think, for example, Patriotic Alternative, their highest count in terms of offline numbers when it comes to demonstrations is in the couple of hundreds. A lot of their activity is designed for the online sphere, which has had effects on their financial activities. So in terms of merchandising, this has become a minor, what we term old school, but still regular form of income generation when it comes to the right-wing extremist scene in the UK. And this is mainly organised around online shops and publishing houses and donation portals with varying scales of inventories and business structures. Some have had registered limited companies, some haven't. Some inventories are fairly kind of comprehensive, some are very bare bones. And some are literally just a way of facilitating donations back to the organization itself. So sites allow visitors to buy clothes, mugs, badges and pendants with either movement logos or satirical or subcultural slogans or motifs. And the way that I described it in my part is to look at it as a form of identity formation. It's not a very kind of lucrative form of income stream, but it's something which fills a more regular basis the coffers of some of these key movements and organizations. And what we also see in terms of this merchandising is linkages to other international chapters. So we see in terms of Identity England, an outlinking to Identity Europe. We see Holocaust denialists who run websites selling Holocaust denial literature in the UK, also having footprints in Germany. And then, as Alexander has talked about, when it comes to white power music, there's outlinking and footprints online between Germany and the UK, which has been quite established for some time now. Now, in terms of crowdsourcing, this has become perhaps one of the most lucrative elements of the extreme right wing in the UK, is what we sometimes refer to as this post-organizational environment. So a move away from strict hierarchies of movements with membership paying members and membership lists, and towards a more kind of horizontal, less hierarchical form of organization. And so in this space, we see specific online platforms, mainstream platforms, being used to facilitate fundraisers, sometimes for members of the organization, sometimes for a new film highlighting a part of their kind of ideological struggle, or paper engagement style activists, this influencer type approach on video streaming on platforms, and obviously kind of videos, kind of episodes offline that are then repackaged for the online environment. We also see alternative streams on less well regulated avenues of crowdsourcing finance. So things like Patreon, DLive, and Odyssey, as well as the use of publicly advertised crypto wallets in order to forestall deplatforming and to kind of diversify their income streams as well. So in conclusion, we've seen is this shift from more old school merchandising businesses that are still present but are now a kind of minor financial concern, to a more new school right-wing extremist influencer type model, where crowdfunding vehicles are used to generate funding either for individuals or the organizations themselves. And this, is involving the use of crypto wallets, as well as kind of dovetailing with this turn in activism from a largely kind of offline focus towards more of an influencer style form of activism. So that's it for my presentation. Thanks everyone for listening. I'll just stop